Good evening, everybody. Sorry about the couple of minutes delay there. I was having issues with my internet. So I'm really excited about the live this evening, Gaslighting and the Narcissist. It's a fascinating topic, and if you are listening in, maybe I've been promoting this like crazy over the last few days because it's something that I'd never heard of when I came out of my marriage, and it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. I've studied a lot to do with narcissism and also gaslighting as well. So I'm going to be talking to you about what is gaslighting. Maybe you are in a marriage, maybe you're in a relationship, maybe you've come out of a marriage or a relationship, and some of the things that I'm going to say might hit home to you. And if that is the case, then please, you don't need to comment on this video because I always understand with regards privacy. So please feel free, you can privately message me anytime. I'm more than happy to help anybody on a one-to-one basis deal with anything like this. Also, I have my free group on Facebook. Although I coach men, this is a ladies only group that I have got called Working Mums Divorce and Breakup Recovery. So if you want to go into that group, where often I will go in after the live as well, and if anyone's got any questions or they can relate to anything because they don't want to comment on my public business page, then please feel free to do that. So I can see lots of people are joining, so please say hello if you are able to, and where you are listening in from. It's always really nice to see people joining. Hi Fiona, so that obviously I can give you a shout out and say hello. And also where you're listening in from, because I get a lot of people listening in from all over the world to my now regular divorce recovery live. So every Sunday at 8 o'clock here on my business page, I have got a divorce recovery live. Now, I say divorce, I'm an accredited divorce and breakup coach and positive psychology coach. So it doesn't just have to be anything to do with marriage or divorce, it's breakup, relationships. And I try and pick a topic each week. Hi Vanessa, hi Linda. I try and choose topics that I know I certainly maybe didn't understand 7-8 years ago when I was going through mine. Hi Jess from Washington State, Eastern Washington State. A lot of people think Washington in the US is Washington State, but it's Seattle, isn't it? So I think I'm right in saying that. So, and Seattle's a beautiful place as well. So evening to you, although it's probably your lunchtime-ish or sort of early afternoon there as well. So I'm really passionate about tonight's subject because it was something I'd never heard of when I came out of my marriage. Newcastle, and good old Geordie lass there, Linda, and Spokane. Ah, right, okay then, Jess, great. So what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about what is gaslighting, the signs of gaslighting, and some of you may relate to this. Some of you may be out of a relationship or a marriage. Some of you may be already in a relationship or marriage, and some of this is going to ring true to you as well. I get lots of messages from men and women saying that often when I do the posts about narcissism, gaslighting, they message me. In fact, I had a lady message me. I put a post up a while ago about gaslighting, and she literally messaged me and she said, I've just read your post and I've got tears running down my face. I didn't realise that was what was happening. And that's exactly what I want to talk to you all about this evening as well, because so many people don't realise they are being gaslighted. Now, if you think back when we are children, we never get taught about emotional abuse. You might get taught about physical abuse, because physical abuse, you can see it, but we don't get taught in schools or very often by our parents. I talk to my children about it, but the majority of us probably don't speak to our children and educate them with that. So when you then go into a relationship, we all know potentially if someone hit us as a physical act of violence, that is wrong, because we can see it. We know that. And whether or not we then stay in the relationship, that's another video obviously that I can talk about with the physical aspect of domestic abuse. But the emotional abuse is very subtle sometimes, and often we don't realise that we are being gaslighted. This was certainly the case for me. I know when I came out of my marriage and I went and had therapy. So before we got divorced, we had counselling, and then afterwards I carried on having counselling on my own. And then I had therapy as well, because I actually got diagnosed with PTSD. Very often, if you're involved in a relationship with a narcissist, whether that be a man or a woman, when you come out of that relationship, the majority of the time you will have PTSD. And we think a lot about PTSD in regards soldiers going to war, but there's actually a whole host of attributes that you can feel with PTSD, and I certainly had the majority of all of those when I came out of my marriage from my ex-husband. I'm going to talk a lot about that actually in some of my future divorce recovery lives, because that is probably the narcissism, gaslighting, post-traumatic stress disorder and post-traumatic growth that you can then develop because of PTSD as well, which is exactly what I had. So that I have gone on and been even happier now, even more successful, even more better off financially, because I literally lost everything because of what happened. And that's something called post-traumatic growth. So again, I will talk about that in another divorce recovery live for you as well. Now, I know this is going to be a really, really personal divorce recovery live. If you are able to interact, or if you want to ask me any questions, please do so. If you can kind of, as I'm telling you a little bit more about what gaslighting is, if you can relate to that, then I would love to know, because I think sometimes, particularly if you are being gaslighted and you don't know, you feel like you're going crazy. And you'll hear that word a lot in this divorce recovery live, crazy. Some of you may well have bought my book, Divorce Became My Superpower. And in this, if you haven't read it, it is very much, you will see a story of gaslighting. I didn't realise that I had been gaslighted when I came out of my marriage, up until I literally, when I was in therapy and telling her everything that I had gone through, all of the things that I had questioned in my marriage, that's when she told me he was a narcissist, and also that I had been gaslighted and emotionally abused. Now, I had always been a really confident, ambitious woman prior to my marriage and at the start of my marriage, when everything is, you know, really positive and really, really great. And what happens when you are being gaslighted is, over the years, it is not an overnight thing. And when you are gaslighted, usually from a narcissist, because it's a form of emotional abuse, it's manipulation of your mind. And what happens is, over that period of time, you are starting to question yourself. Is it real? Has it happened? And what you will find, and again, I've written some things down for you with regards, because just a lot of you listening in may not have even known that you were being gaslighted. And I'll give you some of my scenarios because maybe you can relate to those as well, just to kind of give you a little bit of understanding about how you can feel when you are being gaslighted. So I had various scenarios in my marriage where my husband would be telling me things, but my intuition and the core of me was saying that that wasn't real, that didn't happen. But when you have your husband or your wife looking at you directly in the eye saying, well, don't be ridiculous, of course it happened. Or maybe they're saying, oh, you're always like this, you're so sensitive. Or what they will tend to do is they will deflect from the actual issue you are talking about, and they will look at your personality trait with how you are dealing with it. And again, if you can relate to this, you know, give me lots of love hearts if you don't obviously want to comment, because again, I understand anonymity and privacy with that. But if anyone can relate to being in a relationship or in a relationship right now, where if you are in an argument about something, that they start to say, well, you're crazy, don't be stupid. You know, of course that didn't happen. You're always this sensitive. You know, if you are in a relationship like that, that is a form of emotional abuse, because they are not validating your opinion and they are not talking about exactly what you are saying. Now, I know that happened many times. There's a chapter in my book actually called, I Think I've Killed Somebody. And for those of you who've read it, you know, you will know my ex-husband came home from work one day saying he'd killed somebody. Now, we can laugh about this and we can joke about it now, and I almost laugh about it now. But when you are faced with the person you love, the person you're committed to, the person maybe you've got children with, maybe the person you've got a home with, that they are telling you something, and all of your inner being is saying that isn't true, but they are looking you in the eye and saying, of course it is, you're left questioning yourself. You are left questioning, is it me? Have I got it wrong? And all of those, when you start to question your sanity, are you crazy? You know, maybe I'm wrong. This is all a form of emotional abuse, because they're not validating your opinion, listening to what you are saying, and they're trying to deflect immediately what it is that you are talking about in that scenario. And again, I don't know whether any of you can relate to that. I certainly know when I found out about when my husband was having an affair, it took 24 hours of me digging around and knowing that it wasn't right. And I remember almost being up all night, being a bit of a detective, and you know, he even spoke to my parents at the time and said, of course that's not true, you know, and it's deviating away from it. Yeah, Rebecca, you're absolutely right. Denying being with anyone else. And what happens is they start to allow you that you are crazy and it's all in your head, and that they will kind of pinpoint that you're super sensitive or you always cause this argument, and they will absolutely not want to talk to you about the subject in hand. And they are classic signs of gaslighting, where you are ended up questioning yourself. You're questioning your sanity, you're questioning your intuition. Your intuition, 99.9%, I won't say 100 because obviously you never know, but pretty much the majority of the time will be right. And you get that feeling. I know many times in my marriage, I had that feeling inside that it wasn't true, but I'd got someone saying it. So turning it all around, so yeah, absolutely. You do, yeah. And the master manipulator can make you apologize for that as well. I'm really sorry. Yes, of course it's true, you know, and you know, and I can see lots of you are relating to this. And do you know what? I know obviously I have lots of women that follow me as well, but I get lots of messages from men about this too. So, you know, it isn't just obviously, you know, a problem for us women. It can absolutely be a problem for men as well. And often men won't talk about it, to be honest, because they feel like they should be able to cope. So that's a whole other issue for men to deal with that as well. So great question, Vanessa. How do they do that? It doesn't happen overnight. You know, a lot of people will think, you know, why do you let them take you in like that? Couldn't you see as well? I'll come to that in a second, Sarah, about are they aware they are doing it? And again, you know, this is the studies that I've done, whether or not they are aware that they're doing it. But, you know, I certainly know for me that I was just left questioning myself all the time. My anxiety levels would go through the roof. I was almost living in a permanent fight or flight all of the time, because I didn't know what was reality, I didn't know what was real. And what happens is that you'll end up having an argument about something. They will kind of project onto you all of the things that they are saying, but actually it's actually what they have done. So, you know, of course I haven't cheated, you know, very much about projection in that scenario. You know, don't be stupid, you are crazy, you're super sensitive. All of these are classic signs of gaslighting, where you question your sanity. If you are in a relationship, or you've been in a relationship where you have questioned whether you are crazy or not, that is a form of emotional abuse. Because if you are in a healthy relationship, you won't need to be with somebody who starts questioning you all of the time, because they will validate your opinion. You don't have to agree on everything with somebody. And I did a live a few weeks ago about healthy and unhealthy relationships. You don't have to agree with your partner on everything. It'd be boring if you did. You know, you can have argue and communicate effectively, but it doesn't mean you have to agree on anything. But if you have a partner that won't listen to you, that makes out that you are crazy, that, you know, says that you're super sensitive, that they say you're always like this, and make you feel like you're the one in the wrong for a situation that they did, because you're questioning all of that, then you are in an emotional abusive relationship. Absolutely, you thought you were insane. Yeah, and that's true. They can often get your family thinking you are that too. And I know quite a few people have messaged me and said, you know, that their other halves have even had to try to get them sectioned and things like this, because they have this immense power over you, and this happens over a number of years. You know, if you looked at me right now, you will probably think, Caroline, you look really confident, you know, you're a confident, ambitious businesswoman, you know, you're a coach. How could you be gaslighted? But it happens over time. It's the chipping away over time of your confidence, of your self-esteem, and you are left pretty much codependent then on your partner, because what they do is they chip away at your confidence, they chip away at your self-esteem, so you become reliant on them, you start to switch off from your friends, and all of this is a sign of gaslighting and manipulation and emotional abuse as well. And the narcissist is a master at doing this. Now, somebody asked earlier, let me just scroll down, do they know they are doing that? Yes and no. There are different types of narcissists. And again, I'll do a live on that because it is a fascinating subject. Very often with a narcissist, there will be a reason why they behave like that. And very often it will go back to their childhood. There could be triggers, it could be their parents, there's a whole host. You will often find potentially, if you are married or been in a relationship with a narcissist, there are also narcissistic parents, potentially the mother, the father. There could have been things that had happened in childhood. So there are all of these things. And again, I'm not saying let's feel sorry for being treated like that. But what I'm saying is when you get to the place where you actually realise that they are behaving like that, sometimes they can help it, sometimes they can't. But what you will find with a narcissist is that they don't go into therapy, which is sometimes why it's very, very difficult. Because a lot of people have said to me, well, how do you know someone's a narcissist then? Because actually it is a diagnosable personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. And it's all to do with the DSM in America, that you can actually see the forms of it, and you only have to have 55% of the traits to actually be diagnosed as having narcissistic personality disorder. Lots of us are narcissistic in some frame. You know, we might look in the mirror, I mean, I wear makeup, is that me being a narcissist because I put makeup on? So there's a real difference between sort of having narcissistic traits and then having narcissistic personality disorder. And lots of you will know, it's a little bit of a bugbear of mine, that a lot of people, yes, potentially, Vanessa, absolutely, could be childhood abuse that causes that as well. But ultimately, there is normally a reason why people will behave like that as well. So sorry, I'm answering questions, and I'll try and keep my thread with things. If I forget something and you want to ask it again, please do it, because obviously if all the comments are coming up as well. But you do often see the mother, the father, that there's often a pattern. And what I wanted to say is, with regards to diagnosed, because someone said to me, how do you know? Well, my ex was diagnosed because when I had counselling, afterwards he actually said that to me, and he'd counselled us both together and separately as well. So absolutely not your fault. Let me reiterate this. Whether you are a man or woman listening to me right now and you know you have been gaslighted, it is absolutely not your fault. Absolutely not. And I want to be crystal clear on that, because don't you think for 1 second that you have caused someone to gaslight you. Very often they will target empaths, and I did a video on that a couple of weeks ago as well, because we tend to put up with a lot more than somebody else would. But ultimately, with regards to narcissists, because they don't recognise there's an issue, they think it's everybody else's issue, they never go and get help. So it's very difficult, you know, if you're in a relationship and you know perhaps that they are a narcissist, if you tell them that, they're not going to go and have therapy, because they will think you are the one in the wrong. So it's very, very unlikely you will ever see a narcissist in therapy. I'm not saying it's impossible, because it does happen and people do recognise all of that. But absolutely, Linda, you did not create a monster here. It's a pattern of behaviour that they do consciously or subconsciously to get what they want. And what they want in a relationship with gaslighting is they want you to be dependent on them. They want you to, you know, they want to live their life and have you there regardless. And what they will do is they will chip away at your self-confidence and self-esteem over a period of time. And like I said to you earlier, you probably think, Caroline, how could you be gaslighted? And even now, I mean, I'm remarried now. And when I talk to my husband now about some of the things that happened in my past marriage, he says to me, I don't understand how you could put up with that. I don't get it, that you didn't say anything. And do you know what that just highlights? And I hope this highlights to you as well. It can happen to anybody. Yeah, potentially they can target strong, independent women and then chip away. There's no kind of right or wrong. You tend to find, Rebecca, that they will target empaths because, like I say, empaths put up with a lot more than somebody else would potentially put up with, because we often see as empaths, we want to help them. We might know about their childhood, we might know about their wounds that they have developed over time, and when they are telling us maybe about something at work or you know, their childhood or anything, we want to help them. Yeah, absolutely, Rebecca. So there you go. There's a real correlation between gaslighting, empaths, narcissists, and you will see all of this sort of in my videos that I talk about all of this as well. Now, I've written some things down that are signs, potentially, whether you are in a relationship right now, potentially maybe being gaslighted, or you've come out. Because like I said, when I came out, I'd never really heard of the term gaslight. So when someone said it to me, I was almost like, what's that? I hadn't heard of it. Because again, we don't get taught about emotional abuse. We don't get taught about what red flags to look for in a relationship. You know, and if you are an empath, then you just keep taking it and taking it and taking it. And then over time, your confidence will get chipped away. So I've written down some signs that you are being gaslighted. Okay, and again, if you relate and you are willing to share, then I would love to hear if some of these that you have been through or maybe even going through right now. So the first, if you go into your relationship or your marriage and you are a happy person, you know, life is good, and you start to find yourself losing joy and enjoyment in life. You know, if you start to feel like you don't want to get out of bed in the morning, if you start to feel like, you know, that you're really unhappy, that you're really, really sad, and it's a real difference to when you came into that relationship, came into that marriage. And I know when you have children, a home, maybe you're financially reliant on your partner, all of these things come into play. And if you know that you've started to lose that enjoyment, you're feeling really, really depressed, you know, these are all signs potentially that you're in an unhealthy, toxic relationship. Yes, there can be other things potentially that could have been triggers, but if there's nothing else different other than time with your partner, then these could be potential signs that you have been gaslighted because you're losing the enjoyment of life and that loss of joy. And these are all classic signs that you're in an unhealthy relationship, because again, it's that chipping away over that period of time and you start to lose who you are. You've lost that sense of, you know, and I certainly know that when I look at photos now at the end of my marriage, I almost want to weep, if I'm honest, because it just isn't me. I look like I'm smiling, but the lights are on, but nobody's home. I just completely lost myself. You know, I'd lost my confidence. And again, those of you that have read my book, you will know that I suffered with, have obviously been diagnosed with PTSD, but I suffered with depression, anxiety, and self-harm as well. So I'm really, really passionate about this subject, particularly on the mental health aspect, and you being proactive in your own healing as well. Why, thank you, Dave. That's very nice of you this evening as well. So if you feel like you've lost that enjoyment, and there's a really great quote, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it says, before you go and diagnose yourself of being depressed, look at who you're surrounding yourself with. You know, if you're surrounding yourself maybe in an unhealthy, toxic relationship, and gaslighting doesn't just have to be in a relationship. This could be friendships, family members as well. If you're surrounding yourself with all of these people that are potentially like that, no wonder you are feeling depressed. No wonder you are losing enjoyment of life and the joy that is and should be out there for you as well. So you want to tell your wife that we are seeing each other. Okay then, Dave, whatever you say with regards to that's absolutely fine. As well. So the next one is withholding details about your relationship from friends and family. If you are starting to make excuses for your partner, you are starting to not say some of these things that have happened, and I certainly know this, you know, I'd probably initially start to tell people about what was happening because it almost sounded crazy, and I wanted my friends to say, Caroline, come on, you know, and I wanted them to kind of agree with me with what I was saying. But ultimately, if you're finding yourself that you aren't saying all of these things to your friends and your family because of fear of what they might say to you, then Okay then, Dave, I'll do that when I finish my video, okay? You know, then these are all classic signs of gaslighting and emotional abuse, because why shouldn't you talk to your friends about what is happening? Why shouldn't you tell them? And what happens is, it's because your intuition is saying that it isn't real, but because they're your husband, your wife, you don't want to talk to your friends about that either. So if you're finding that your confidence and self-esteem is starting to decline, again, why? And you have to ask yourself these questions. And again, you may be listening to this being right now in a relationship like this, or you may have come out and all of this is really resonating with you and you didn't even realize. Maybe you were like me, maybe you didn't even realize that that was happening. I just thought we'd had problems. I didn't realize all of these things because I thought I was an intelligent woman, and surely I should have seen all of this and I would have known all of that if that would ever happen to me. But I'd never been taught about emotional abuse. I didn't know what the signs were. I didn't know about gaslighting. I didn't know about all of those things as well. So let's have a look. Let me have a look. What did Linda say? You were at the stage, didn't know what I liked anymore. Came, I can't like this because he wouldn't like it. Absolutely, Linda. And all of these things where you're starting to question your own, you know, what you like, what you don't, out of fear, because you think you don't want to cause an argument, because if you cause an argument, the argument won't be about the argument, it will be about your reaction to the argument, your super sensitivity, or you're angry and you're always like this and you're crazy and you're confused, of course that happened, or of course that didn't happen, and you're just kind of left not knowing what is going on as well. Oh, Rebecca, so many of, my goodness, I can't even block you, Dave, at the moment on my phone, but you know, thanks for listening in as well. So the other is, you're constantly left wondering, is it me? So if you're in a relationship, or you come out of that relationship where you start to question yourself and you're saying, because I can't even begin to tell you how many times I would say to myself, is it me? Am I oversensitive? Am I overreacting? And I would have these internal conversations with myself about it. So if you're finding yourself thinking, are you being oversensitive? And those feelings of, is it me? Then, then all of these are signs of emotional abuse and gaslighting, because you shouldn't feel, is it me? You shouldn't feel you are being oversensitive, because if you are in a healthy relationship with somebody, they will validate your feelings. You may disagree about whatever it is you're talking about, but they will still respect your opinion, as they should do as well. So Sarah, I got to the stage where I felt like I had to agree to him picking a film at the cinema and going along with places we went, feel like a right mug when I look back. Sarah, it is absolutely not your fault, and you are not a mug. You know what? Being an empath is a gift, and I talk about this a lot. You know, you being able to feel the energy of whether someone's happy or sad or wanting to help somebody, absolutely a gift. But what you need to get crystal clear on, and I think Linda said about who you keep attracting into your life as well, is boundaries. Boundaries and red flags and deal breakers and what to look for. And don't worry, I'll be doing videos on all of this as well, because I know lots of people, and I coach on this as well, is, you know, I talk about designing your ideal partner, looking at your values, looking at your red flags, looking at your boundaries. And the moment then somebody crosses those boundaries, then you need to make a decision. Is it a Mr. or Mrs. Right now, or a Mr. or Mrs. Right? And if they're crossing those boundaries, then, you know, potentially they could be a right now, because I'm, you know, if you want to have some fun, that's fine. But you need to know and consciously know that this person is not going to be somebody that you're going to have a long-term relationship with, because they are crossing the boundaries as well. Well, you're certainly keeping everyone entertained there, Dave. So, frequently second-guessing yourself about what you believe to be true. I can massively relate to this. I remember spending so many nights wide awake questioning what was true, what wasn't. And again, if you read my book, you will absolutely know there's quite a few in there where I was left questioning what was real and what wasn't. And I'm a scientist. You know, everything's black and white to me. I love spiritual stuff, but I like evidence-based stuff. That's why I like my positive psychology, because it's a science-based, all about happiness, because I like to see evidence for things. So for me, I would even have all of this evidence in front of me, because I'd dig around, and I was a great detective, and I still am. You know, having an ex-husband like mine, I've become a great detective. It was definitely another line of work for me. But what I would be doing would I'd be questioning what was real and what wasn't, even though I could literally look in front of me and see the evidence. Yet I had been manipulated so much over a period of time that I would make excuses. I would think it was my fault. I would think I was oversensitive. I would create something around all of that that actually wouldn't be my fault then. Because, and I would question that. I would look at the evidence but think, it's me. You know, because they're looking at you in the eye and they are telling you another thing. And this is the sign of manipulation as well. So Dodgy Dave is making you annoyed. I know, I can't block him on my phone actually, and I haven't got my laptop in front of me as well. So let me just see if I can block him. No, I can't do it on my phone, I'm afraid. Just ignore Dave, you know, because ultimately, you know, this is what we're talking about. And if he is married, then, oh, there you go. So the other thing, feeling like you are no longer adequate or competent. This is, again, something that you might have come into your marriage, your relationship, where you felt competent with things. Maybe you've got a great job, you know, all of these things. But ultimately, yeah, well said, Sarah. And you'll all be thinking about butter later, won't you, girls? And stuff. So Linda, you went shopping even, and you even argued what biscuits you could choose. And you know what? It's all signs of emotional abuse, Linda. You shouldn't be in a relationship where you're arguing and you're feeling like you can't say what biscuits you want. Now, I know there could be people listening into this that think, Linda, come on, just say what biscuits. If you've not been gaslighted, then, and I totally can see all of this, Linda, but, you know, if you've not been emotionally abused, been gaslighted, people won't necessarily understand, which then means that you don't want to tell your friends and family about it because they'll think, well, come on, just say what biscuits you want. But it's so much more than that, because your confidence and your self-esteem has been completely eroded as well. So the next one is giving into your partner's versions of events to avoid confrontations. It almost gets to the stage where you kind of think, what's the point? Just as Linda said, you know, just as some of you have said, when you have said about going to the cinema and choosing their film, because ultimately, when you do that, you think, well, at least you won't have an argument about it. But what I can say is, you shouldn't be living the rest of your life like that. You know, that is such a toxic, unhealthy relationship that you are in. You should be allowed to have a voice. You should be allowed to have an opinion, so that then they may not agree with it, but you can have a healthy discussion about that and communicate effectively with other as well. So now, you know, one of the ways, if you think you've been a victim of gaslighting, and this is something maybe if you're in a relationship right now and you're wondering, is this happening to you? That's writing things down, maybe getting a journal, writing things down so that you can start giving some clarity as to what is happening in your life as well. And again, I work with a lot of people who are being gaslighted. Maybe they've got narcissistic partners. Trying to co-parent with somebody, obviously, who is a narcissist is impossible. And I talk a lot about parallel parenting. That's actually going to be my live next Sunday night. I'm going to be talking about co-parenting and parallel parenting and what they are, what difference they are as well. Because I get so many people message me, I can't co-parent, my ex is like this, how do I do it? And I can talk, excuse me, from my own personal experience from that, but also my professional experience as well, being a positive psychology coach, an accredited divorce and breakup coach. So I encompass all of that, and I can give you what exactly is parallel parenting, you know, what is co-parenting, which is obviously the ideal. Of course it is. But if you've got somebody who won't co-parent with you, what do you do? And that's where the danger comes in, because ultimately you all have to be proactive in your own mental health here. Now, I know coming out of my marriage, I was at rock bottom, no confidence, and like I said, the depression, the anxiety, all of that. So I know this might be incredibly hard for some of you to listen to, because you might be in a relationship like this and you don't know where to turn. So please know that you can reach out to me at any time. You know, you can message me on Facebook. If you want to be in my private group, which is for women only, although obviously I know I coach men, but it is a ladies only group that I've got called Working Mums Divorce and Breakup Recovery. Doesn't mean if you haven't got children or you're not working, you can't be in there, you know, because there's still tons and tons of stuff in there, and it's a great community as well. So how do you move on from it? So what I would say is, like I've said, you need to be proactive. Your healing and your recovery needs to come from a place where you want to feel better. It's not necessarily just going to happen. Yes, time as it goes on, if you're out of that relationship, you will feel a bit better. But ultimately, I really want you guys to be proactive in your mental health here. Now that means either reading books, listening to things, getting a coach like myself who can really hone in and help you through all of this and really massively speed up your recovery. But ultimately, what I want you to think about is you need to take your power back. You need to, because if you are giving your power to your ex-partner as to whether you feel happy, you feel joyful, or you know you're going to live the rest of your life, if you're waiting for this epiphany of them changing, of behaving differently, then ultimately, Rebecca, please don't worry about it. Listen, having 12 years in a marriage with a narcissist, Dave is nothing, okay? Genuinely nothing. So I know some of you are saying, you know, please don't worry about me. It's water off a duck's back to me. It really is. So I've been through far worse as well. I find it amusing. I'm sorry if he's offending anybody. Once this is finished, I'll go and delete all his comments anyway. So, you know, and block him. So please just ignore him as well. So, you know, all of these things, loss of enjoyment in your life, withholding details about your relationship from your friends and family, because you know deep down it wouldn't sound right if you spoke to them about it. Loss of confidence and self-esteem, constantly wondering if it's just you or you're being oversensitive. Maybe you're frequently second-guessing yourself about what you believe to be true. Maybe you're feeling like you're no longer adequate or competent and giving in to your partner's version of events. Keep a note, if you're in this kind of relationship right now, you need to reach out as well, because obviously there are people like myself out there that can help you, you know, help you process all of this and move on, you know. But what we need to do is, absolutely you can move on from it, but you need to work on your own values. You need to work on your boundaries. You need to know what red flags to look at. And the biggest gift you can ever give yourself is work on yourself. If you're in a relationship right now and you think you are being gaslighted, then the best piece of advice I can give to you is work on yourself. Because the more you work on your self-confidence, your self-esteem, you will start to see, because you feel stronger, you will be able to see that things aren't real, aren't true, and you will start to have a voice. Okay, so the best thing that you can do, whether you're in a relationship like this right now or you're coming out and just, you know, you think this has happened, then what you need to do is you need to work on yourself. So many people, and I see this a lot, we put our own healing and recovery onto somebody else. Somebody else is going to come in and rescue me. Somebody else, I'm going to have another relationship and it's going to make it okay. Somebody else needs to say this, do that to make me feel better. And you need to stop right now. You need to take back your own power. I healed myself, okay? Yes, I had some therapy initially, but ultimately I know where I am right now is because of me. Because I looked at my boundaries, I looked at my values, I looked at my confidence, my self-esteem, what I wanted in life. I didn't want to be ever in a relationship like that again. But I knew, being a highly sensitive empath, if I didn't actually do the groundwork, I would absolutely attract other people into my life like that. And actually everything that I've learned in the last 7-8 years as well, I've realized a lot of my friendships were narcissists, and I was being gaslighted in friendships as well, because I would be left questioning things. And I can think of one female friend that I had in absolute particular here, where she'd be saying these things to me and I'd be questioning it because I knew, because other people had told me what she was actually saying. So again, I didn't say anything though because my confidence was low, because I was always married to a narcissist and he was also gaslighting me as well. So you need to look at who you are surrounding yourself with right now. Who are you friends with? Who are you in a relationship with? Because you know what? Life is precious. You know, life is precious. Do you want to get to 70, 80, 90 years old and feel the way you do right now? Do you want to feel like that for the next 5 years, 10 years? Because you know what? You can make a change right now. I know how hard it is to come out of a relationship if you have been gaslighted, you know, and I know that because I have been there and it nearly broke me. It really, really did. But you can recover from that. There are lots of strategies of how to help you speed up your recovery as well. So if you just obey, none of this would happen. So, you know, well, potentially. So, dear me, there's a lot of butter going on here as well. But what I would say to you all is, if you feel you're in a relationship right now and you are being gaslighted, and I hope that's helped with some of the things about whether you're questioning yourself, whether your intuition is saying one thing but you know it not to be true. If you have an argument with your partner, it's not about the argument that your partner starts to talk about, it's about your personality traits, like you're oversensitive. Of course it's true, you know, or of course it isn't true, whatever it is to suit them, because that's their personality and they're projecting on you. None of it is your fault at all either, okay? So if you want to come into my Working Mums Divorce and Breakup Recovery group, please send me a message or comment below and I'm more than happy to send you the link with all of that as well. I hope that's helped you a little bit understand a little bit more about what gaslighting is. It's something I really, really read a lot about, along with narcissism, and it's something I'm teaching my children as well with regards to emotional abuse, because you know, you don't see the scars of emotional abuse. So when it's happening to you, because you don't physically see anything and it's all up here, you start to question yourself. So I'm teaching my daughter in particular, because she's 10, healthy boundaries. Absolutely, Louise. I'll send you the link. So, you know, I'm teaching her healthy boundaries so she will recognize where, if she's in a relationship with friends, because we have a lot of conversation about friends as a 10-year-old daughter, believe me, and if you've got daughters, you'll know. You know, about these boundaries and red flags to look for, and then disassociating yourself from these people, you know, and the more we can do that with our children, the more they will grow up and they will also have healthy relationships. But what I don't want you to do is beat yourself up right now if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're being gaslighted or you've come out of one. You know, it isn't your fault. They are master manipulators. And absolutely, Vanessa, I'll send you the link to join as well. You know, and again, any other questions, if people want to say any other questions to me in the private group, because I know I always get lots of people watching who are silent watchers because they don't want to comment in case their friends see, and I get that because this is obviously my public business page as well. Oh, thank you, Dave. That's really nice of you as well. So I hope that's helped lots of you this evening. Like I say, next week it's going to be on co-parenting and parallel parenting. So this is a regular 8 o'clock divorce recovery live. We won't have Dave again, because he'll be blocked from the page, as are a few others as well. So yeah, I mean, Linda, it's equally as bad as physical abuse as well, because I get bruises heal, but even physical abuse will still leave mental scars as well. So, you know, yes, it will stay with you, but it doesn't need to define you. You know, your being emotionally abused doesn't mean that you can't go and live a fruitful life. It doesn't mean, and I'm a big believer in what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but you have to be proactive in all of that as well. And that's a lot to do with my positive psychology coaching, where I use a lot of interventions there to really work on strengths, gratitude, what makes you happy, to really, really move you forward all of the time as well. So that's okay, because I'll have my laptop with me next time, Dave, so I'll be able to block whatever you do next time. So have a wonderful, wonderful week as well. So my husband is divorcing me for my McDonald's habit. wow, Alicia, that's not good. You know, at least you know you can carry on with your habit yourself anyway then, if he's divorcing you for that. You know, it can't really divorce you for that on unreasonable grounds. I don't think a judge would honour that potentially as well. But do you know what, that actually highlights something, Alicia, where people will say, like, if he hits you every time you eat a Big Mac, okay. So what I would say in that scenario is, you need to get out. You know, that is not a healthy relationship to be in. So have a wonderful, wonderful week. I will see you all next Sunday as well. If you feel you've got somebody who maybe you think is in a relationship like that, then maybe you can share it on your timeline, this video. Maybe you can direct them to this video. You don't need to tag them, because obviously some people won't want to be tagged in this video potentially, but just tell them, say, go and watch it. You know, go and watch and see if you can relate to everything as well. So take care, everybody, and I will see you all next Sunday night. Bye.